Hello everybody. Unlike last video, I don't really have a story as to why I went vegan. I just listened to some vegan arguments, thought about them for quite some time, became convinced of them, and then started living my life accordingly. So in this video, I'm going to share some of those arguments that convinced me and hopefully will convince you. So yeah, let's get into it. First, I'd like to define veganism. My definition of veganism is eliminating unnecessary animal suffering to the highest extent practicable. Most people see this as a worthy moral goal when it's for humans. So, in my view, I don't see why we wouldn't extend this same moral care to animals, or at least a similar level of moral care. So, let's see if both criteria are met. As for one, animal suffering, there's at least some level of animal suffering going on in these factory farms. Obviously, the animals have to be killed, which is some level of suffering. A lot of them suffocate to death on land, suffocate via gas chamber, are beaten to death, are riddled with disease, waiting in their own shit, separated from their young, caged. There's at least some level of suffering going on in terms of animal farming. And as for the second part, it being unnecessary, basically all the scientific research and data that we have up until this point has shown that it's perfectly normal and healthy to live a vegan lifestyle. And also anecdotally, we know that vegans aren't dropping dead within 5 years or 10, 20 years because of their vegan diet. There's also people who are vegetarian, of course. So in today's world, it is not a necessity to consume animal products. But if you still don't see a problem with animal suffering, let me present some arguments that might change your mind. Just like in last video, I'll put timestamps up on screen. You can skip to whatever argument you want, and let's go. My main argument to defend veganism is the name the trait argument. Naming the trait is a very important philosophical concept in which Group A is oppressing Group B, and they're asked to name the trait to justify their suffering that Group A either has that Group B doesn't have, or vice versa. And very importantly, if the trait that they name were to appear in somebody in Group A, that they would treat that person like how they treat people in Group B. For example, when Europeans were trying to justify enslaving Africans, there were multiple traits that they named to try to justify it. One being that they lacked a sense of morality, the Africans, that is, that they didn't feel any pain, that they were of lower intelligence, etc., etc. Some of these should sound familiar to you. Now, of course, we know that these things, first of all, aren't true, and second of all, shouldn't matter in terms of moral worth. So now I'd like to ask you to name the trait that animals either have that we don't have, or vice versa, to justify their suffering. One trait that people name is taste pleasure. So because I find animals tasty, we should be able to kill and eat them. So let's see if this argument holds up. What is taste? Taste is one of the 5 senses. So your justification is sensory pleasure. So let's apply the argument equally. Let's say I stab a dog because I like watching it squirm in pain. Is that okay? No, definitely not. Let's say I stab it because I liked hearing the whimpers of pain. No, definitely not as well. What if I stab the dog because I like the smell of blood? Nope, definitely not. And what if I stab the dog because I like the feel of open wounds? Nope. So none of the other 4 senses matter, only taste. So if I think the dog tastes good, I should be allowed to kill and eat it, right? But wait, hold up. We don't think, at least here in America, we don't think that it's okay to kill and eat dogs. But if it's a pig, it's completely fine. It's a little bit inconsistent and arbitrary, isn't it? The way we label some animals as okay to kill and eat and some that aren't. And can you think of any crime in which we justify the victim's suffering because of the sensory pleasure of the perpetrator? I can't think of any, and you shouldn't be able to think of any either. If I murder somebody because it feels good to me, this would not be okay, right? Because my sense of pleasure is not more morally valuable than the victim suffering. So in this case, your sense of pleasure from eating the animal isn't enough, in my opinion, to justify the suffering of the animal. To pair along with taste pleasure, a lot of people also name dominance as a trait to justify animal suffering. So because we're the top of the food chain, we should be able to kill and eat animals below us. Animals do it to each other, so why shouldn't we? Several objections here. First of all, animals do not have a sense of morality, so they do not choose their actions. And also, why would we want to base our morals off of animals? Animals also rape and cannibalize each other all the time in the wild, but we wouldn't say this is moral for humans to do, would we? Second of all, carnivores do not choose to eat meat. They have to in order to survive. And as for omnivores, a bear is in a survival situation, so it has to eat whatever is in front of the bear, whether it's a fish or berries. Like, the bear cannot just go walk into a supermarket and just start picking stuff off the shelves, right? And we humans have justified a number of immoral actions when it's in a survival situation. For example, there have been loads, and I mean loads of cases of cannibalism in survival situations. We wouldn't consider this moral in everyday life, but in these situations, we recognize that it is at least somewhat morally justifiable in order to stay alive. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors might not have had a choice to kill that dinosaur in order to eat meat, but when we walk into a supermarket, again, we have a choice to either go to the meat section or go to a different section of the store and pick something off the shelf. We are not in a dire survival situation, so the actions shouldn't be morally justified because of that. And as for the food chain argument, it's an appeal to nature. Just because something is natural does not make it good. And also, it does not seem very natural to me to force pigs into gas chambers and systematically kill them. That does not seem like something abundant in nature and is not an example of the food chain. And if you cite dominance as a justification, think about what you're saying here. You're basically making a might makes right argument. Just because I can means I should be able to. But we don't operate like this, and thank goodness we don't. For example, I am stronger than every single baby on planet Earth. This does not mean I am morally justified in killing babies just because I can, right? And similarly, there's a lot of people who are stronger and more dominant than I am, but that doesn't give them a justification to kill me or to otherwise harm me and induce more suffering. So what about intelligence then? Animals are obviously less intelligent than us, so we should be allowed to kill and eat them. First of all, I'm not sure whether or not this is true. We cannot measure intelligence without using metrics that are obviously biased towards us, because we're the ones making the tests. We're the only animal that can understand human language, etc., etc. But let's just say that this is true. Why does it matter? And as a reminder, the name the trait argument, in order to be fulfilled, must name a trait that, if present in an individual in group A, that individual should be treated the same as in group B. So as for intelligence, do we treat less intelligent humans as less morally valuable than more intelligent humans? No, obviously not. And obviously it is immoral for me to kill people that are less intelligent than me or to otherwise harm them, just as people who are more intelligent than me, it would not be okay for them to harm me as well. And maybe intelligence has some relevance to moral worth. Like, for example, if I was in a burning building with Albert Einstein and you have to save one of us, maybe you can make a case that you should save Einstein because he will advance the sciences or something like that. But that doesn't, give the justification for Einstein to kill and eat me, right? Just because Einstein might be slightly more morally valuable than me doesn't mean I am so much less morally valuable that I should be harmed, killed, and eaten. And even if you think humans are more morally valuable than animals, which I would agree with, surely they are not so much more morally valuable and animals so much less morally valuable that it's okay to justify immense amounts of unnecessary suffering. Okay, so what about consciousness and sentience? Obviously, animals are on a lower level of consciousness and sentience than us humans, so we should be allowed to kill and eat them. Again, I'm not sure whether or not this is true. We cannot really test this, but let's just say that it is true. Again, why does it matter? Take a human being and strip them completely of their consciousness and sentience. Is it now okay for us to harm that human being? Probably not. And animals do not have no levels of consciousness or sentience you already admitted by saying that they're on a lower level of consciousness and sentience, that they at least have some level. So again, reduce that human's level of consciousness to that of a fish or of a pig or of a dog. Is it now okay to kill and eat them? I would say probably not. And as for these two traits, consciousness slash sentience and intelligence, if we look at all forms of edible life, and let's put them on a spectrum, right? Like highest levels of consciousness and intelligence and the lowest levels. What is the lowest form of edible life in both these spectrums? It's plant life, right? Nobody seriously thinks that plants are conscious slash sentient or intelligent. And even if they were, they are obviously, at least to the human eye, far less intelligent and sentient than animals are. Okay, so I've been talking a lot about animals suffering while the animal is still alive. What if we give the animal a good life and then we end it prematurely to kill and eat them? Again, if I were to have a child and I give them a really good life, is it okay for me to end their life prematurely to kill and eat them? Second of all, I don't think animals can be humanely killed, even though it's not humane at all, because what does humane mean? It means compassionate, and there's no way to compassionately murder a living sentient being. And even if you were able to humanely kill an animal, there is no way to systematically humanely kill animals. And if you have a way, feel free to leave it down low in the comments below. For example, according to the USDA, 88 to 98% of pigs in the US are killed via gas chamber via carbon dioxide poisoning, which is one of the worst ways to go. And we have tested other forms of gases on pigs and found that there are a lot that are less painful or even knock out the pigs unconscious entirely. Do you know why we still use carbon dioxide poisoning? Because it's cheap. It all revolves around money. These factory farming industries, when they say that they care about animals and their well-being, it's all lies. If it's not, if it's not monetarily reasonable to do, they will not do it. And there is no method of systematically killing animals that is humane. Do you know how many humans have ever existed? It's around 117 billion, or just over 100 billion. And you know how long it takes us to kill that number of animals via factory farming? A month and a half. Now I'd like to bring forward a new argument made by yours truly. Come on now, clap it up, everybody, clap it up. And this new argument has to do with abortion. Whether or not you're pro-choice or pro-life, personally, I am pro-life, but this is irrelevant. If you're pro-choice, what choice do the animals have when they're forcibly impregnated, caged, killed, have their young stolen from them, and also have their young killed as well? And if you're pro-life, please tell me what crimes these animals have committed in order for them to be administered the worst punishments imaginable. Even if you took the worst human on planet Earth right now, we would think, a lot of people at least, would think it's immoral for them to be killed via gas chamber, right? We would say, no, this is cruel, totally unimaginable, immoral, even if they're a horrible human being, right? And even if you think this is okay, what crimes have the animals committed? They haven't committed any. They're innocent. And yet we are subjecting them to the worst forms of pain, suffering, and violence imaginable to those who cannot even stand for themselves, cannot even defend themselves, cannot even speak up for themselves. People also like to appeal to culture and tradition, basically because every culture around the world eats meat, and we have been eating meat since our existence, that we should continue doing so. But we have also practiced slavery and genocide for a long time as well. This does not make them moral because we have been doing it for a long time, does it? Also, just because something is legal does not make it moral. Again, slavery was perfectly legal in the United States for quite some time, and also right now it's cultural and legal to mutilate the genitals of women in many Asian and Middle Eastern countries, and also to mutilate the genitals of boys here in the West. This does not make it moral just because it's illegal. I've been talking a lot about why eating meat is immoral, so I should probably talk about the egg, dairy, and honey industries. As for the egg industry, male chicks are completely useless. So on the first day of their birth, they are sent via conveyor belt to either be blended up alive, fully conscious, or killed via gas chamber. And as for the dairy industry, why do cows produce milk? To feed their young, just like we do, just like other mammals do. So they have to keep repeatedly get forcibly impregnated or raped, and have their children stolen from them and then chained to the ground, bolt gun in the head to make veal, or the children will go on to continue this cycle. And as for the honey industry, many people do not know this. The honeybees are killed via gas chamber. I don't know why, but humans just love killing innocent beings via gas chamber. And again, for the egg and dairy industries, what happens once their productivity declines and they're no longer economically profitable? They get sent straight to the slaughterhouse. So if you think that's wrong, you should also think the egg, dairy, and honey industries are wrong as well. Moving on to more environmental arguments, many people have correctly stated that animals die all the time in terms of crop production. So their reasoning is, if they die all the time anyways, why should we go vegan if animals are going to die anyways? And yes, this is correct. Animals do die in terms of crop production. There's no way for us at this very moment in time to produce food without killing or harming some animals. But there's definitely a moral difference in unintentionally harming or killing somebody and intentionally doing so, right? Like if I'm driving and a deer steps out in front of my car and I accidentally hit the deer, you would not hold me morally responsible, right? But if I'm driving the car and I see a dog on the side of the road and I purposely go over to run over the dog, you would say that's a lot morally different. Also, guys, what do animals eat? They eat crops, so regardless, we would have to grow crops anyways. And it's even worse than that because if you know anything about ecology, there's this concept called trophic levels. Basically, first trophic level, you have plants, then you have whatever eats the plants, then you have whatever eats that, whatever, so on and so forth. And each time you move up in trophic levels, you lose 90% of the energy either due to heat or due to the animal using the energy for themselves, right? So it's ecologically very, very unsustainable. So it's not like in a vegan world, we would have 2 plots of land for crops. And in our world, we have 1 plot for plants and 1 plot for animals. No, in our world, we need 9 to 10 plots of land to produce 1 plot of meat. And then in a vegan world, we could use all 9 to 10 to produce human food, or we could, give that land back to the environment and rewild it or whatever. So in terms of saving the environment, which has been a very prominent issue, which is a good thing. It should be heavily prioritized. The most efficient and least economically impacting way to eat is to eat the lowest on the trophic levels, which is plants. Also, animal farming is the #1 cause of deforestation. Animal farming also produces more greenhouse gas emissions than all of our transportation industries combined, which is crazy, I know. Also, we have seen a massive drop in biodiversity due to factory farming. Pop quiz, everybody. What makes up 50% of the plastic in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? If you answered fishing nets, you'd be wrong, as they make up 75% of the plastic in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is, again, completely unnecessary. Okay, so now you might be thinking to yourself, okay, this is all well and good, hooray for you. But what if I just don't want to go vegan? Like what if it's just not on the cards for me? And I understand this natural, instinct, this natural reaction. And I think it works in some situations, not in this one though. Like if I was working to advocate for some charity organization and I said to you like, hey man, if you just donate $5 to $10, or woman, don't want to be exclusionary. If you just donate $5 to $10, you could be saving the lives of many children. And you said to me like, I just don't want to do it. This would be at least morally permissible because at least you're not paying for that child to get malaria or cancer or whatever, right? But in terms of animal suffering, you are paying for it and you are continuing the cycle of pain and suffering by paying and supporting these industries, right? These industries only stay up, are only relevant, only make money because there's a demand for it, right? If the demand went completely away, there would be no more systematic killing and exploitation of animals. So when you are causing victims to suffer, I would say that you are morally responsible and you should stop the action, i.e. go vegan. 2 more arguments to go. Addressing the claim that vegans force their views on others. No, we do not. We literally cannot. You cannot force your views on people. You cannot even force yourself to believe something. If you don't agree with me, try to force somebody to believe that leprechauns exist. It's not possible. And addressing the claim that vegans are pushy. So what if we are? Like, the whole point of being an activist is to push people to either do something or to stop doing something. Like, I guess you could say that slavery abolitionists were pushy when they said to everybody, "Hey, we should stop owning slaves. We should boycott these practices." Yeah, they might have been pushy, but this isn't wrong or immoral for them to have done. And in fact, we should be thankful that they were pushy. So no, I don't think it's wrong for vegans to, want to argue and debate with meat eaters. I don't think it's wrong for us to demand, debates and demand platforms to express our views and perhaps change people's minds. I don't think this is wrong in the slightest. Okay, one last new argument, again, created by yours truly. Let's say tomorrow aliens landed on Earth, right? And think of all of the traits that you either named or I named that you use to justify the suffering of animals, right? And let's say these aliens are superior to us in every trait you just named, right? They're more intelligent than us. They have higher moral reasoning than us. They are stronger, more dominant than us. A higher level of consciousness, whatever, right? And let's say they wanted to factory farm humans in order to kill and eat us, right? And since they're capable of moral reasoning, let's say we objected to this, right? And you were put on trial against the aliens to defend the humans and why we shouldn't be factory farmed. And imagine the aliens used every argument you just named or you're thinking in your head right now, right? And just replace the word animals with humans. Would any of these arguments move you in the slightest? I don't think so. I think you would probably say to the aliens that the reasons they gave are unnecessary, first of all, and that every trait that they named should not be a relevant factor in terms of moral worth. So I'd like to leave you with one last thought. Just imagine for a second if it was you in those gas chambers, getting caged, getting beaten to death, having your throat slit, having loved ones, family members, friends also enduring the same fate. Would you want that upon yourself and upon your fellow humans? I would say that you probably don't want that. So if you don't want that fate assigned to you or your fellow humans, you probably should stop paying for that same fate to be assigned to animals, i.e., maybe you should go vegan. So there you have it. That's all the arguments I have to defend veganism. If they worked, great. If they didn't, then oh well, I tried my best. Hopefully this video will, be added to the list of videos of people going vegan and more people will go vegan in the future. This is the last video I will do of this like format, or at least last for a very long time. I'll go back to playing video games and this time dissecting philosophy in the video games. Since next month is spooky month, or maybe it already is spooky month when this video is released, I have a very special playthrough for you all. It goes by the name of The Coffin of Andy and Lele. So hope you guys stay around for that, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.